This is crazy. Oh my goodness. The WNBA, the Indiana Fever organization, it's a complete circus and a clown show. Now look, I don't know. We got to go through what Bree Turner is alleging versus the Indiana Fever organization in response to Sophie Cunningham. And I was staying away from it, but damn it, we can't stay away from it because it's here now.
There is a massive, highly volatile situation currently exploding entirely outside the lines of the basketball court, and it has engulfed the Indiana Fever organization in an absolute media circus. Welcome back to WNBA Shock. For the past year, the headlines surrounding this franchise have been almost exclusively focused on historic television ratings, record-breaking three-pointers, and sold-out arenas. But today, the conversation has violently shifted. We are no longer talking about offensive execution or defensive rotations. We are talking about serious, franchise-altering allegations, deeply polarized locker rooms, and a massive ideological clash that is tearing through the fabric of the WNBA. To fully grasp how the Indiana Fever found themselves in the center of this storm, we have to look at two massive, interconnected narratives that just collided on social media. It starts with veteran player Sophie Cunningham taking a firm, highly publicized stance, and it ends with Brianna Turner dropping a bombshell organizational allegation that has left the entire basketball world completely stunned.
There's, trans trying to play women's sports and all of that. And then she doubled down on it in the pregame interview. We're going to get to that footage. But this is what Bree Turner has said in response to Cheryl Reeve and Sophie Cunningham going at Cheryl Reeve and disagreeing. And this is the Bree Turner response. We have got to get into this. Oh my goodness. This is nuts. We're going to get into all the tweets, but The
dominoes began to fall when Sophie Cunningham openly and directly disagreed with Minnesota Lynx head coach Cheryl Reeve regarding the highly debated topic of biological men playing in women's sports. This is arguably the most sensitive, polarizing debate in modern athletics, and it is a topic that many professional athletes intentionally avoid to protect their endorsements and their public relations standing. But Cunningham did not back down. She stepped directly to the microphone and planted her flag. In a recent pregame interview, reporters naturally pressed Cunningham to expand on her viewpoint following a previous story with ESPN where she discussed wanting to protect young girls. Cunningham was absolutely unwavering. She looked directly at the cameras and stated, "I said what I said. I think it's kind of common sense, and I think I'll always believe in that. I think it's really important to protect children, and that's little girls who are also involved in that category." Cunningham completely doubled down on her beliefs, making it abundantly clear that she will not be intimidated by the inevitable online backlash. She stated firmly, "I stand on what I said, and I always believe that." This level of unfiltered honesty immediately ignited a firestorm across the league. Minnesota head coach Cheryl Reeve had previously spoken out passionately on the topic, stating that exclusion is never the answer, arguing that separate isn't equal, and asserting that the attacks on transgender people have become sickeningly aggressive. Reeve emphasized the value of sports for young people, focusing on teamwork and leadership, and argued that everyone has a right to participate. But Cunningham's perspective is rooted entirely in the preservation of female-specific athletic categories. When asked if her stance might be viewed as targeted or harmful, she navigated the question by reiterating her morals and the fundamental necessity of Title IX.
See on that, taking any form going forward? I don't know. I'm not a very political person, but I do have beliefs. I have morals, and I'll always stand on those and be true to who I am. And I think people are going to take it how they want to take it, but I've never even really said anything about that. And so when it comes just to protecting young girls in sport and women in sport, I feel very strongly about that. I think that's why you have Title IX. That's why you have some of the greats in women's sports. If Title IX and women's sports weren't protected.
Cunningham eloquently articulated her position, stating, "I extend love and I don't dislike anyone. I think there is room for absolutely everyone here, and I think there's room to love everyone." However, she quickly pivoted back to her core argument regarding the protection of biological women in athletics. "I'm there to love, but I'm also there to love biological women. And I think that there are rights that need to be protected. And like I said, I'm going to stand true to that. I'll never falter in my beliefs in that. She pointed directly to the historical significance of Title IX, arguing that if the structural protections for women in sports did not exist, the public wouldn't hear about any of the greats in women's sports today. It was a firm, uncompromising defense of biological boundaries in competition, and it immediately drew intense reactions from both sides of the political aisle. But what happened next is what truly sent this entire situation completely off the rails. In direct response to Sophie Cunningham and the ongoing debate regarding inclusion and biological men in sports, veteran player Brianna Turner took to social media and completely detonated a bomb over the Indiana Fever front office. Turner, who openly stated she has been an advocate for the trans community since entering the WNBA, posted a long, detailed thread pushing back against the narrative that inclusion causes problems in the league. But it was one specific, horrifying paragraph in her response that has the sports world demanding immediate answers from the Indiana brass.
There's been one out trans player in the league. They caused zero problems. An issue that has caused problems, though, last year on my WNBA team, a male staffer was fired for sexual harassment because we were encouraged to keep quiet about it. That is an issue. Sexism, misogyny, homophobia, and racism are all issues. There are many sex variations, and then she went into the whole thing. Okay, from my time, my undergrad at Notre Dame, I took many courses where I became better educated on trans community. My studies have led me to be inclusive, okay?
In her attempt to highlight what she views as the actual problems plaguing the league, Turner wrote the following explosive statement. An issue that has caused problems, though, last year on my WNBA team, the Indiana Fever, a male staffer was fired for sexual harassment, but we were encouraged to keep quiet about it. Let the sheer gravity of that accusation sink in for a moment. This is not a random rumor floating around on a message board. This is an active WNBA player publicly claiming that a male staff member within the Indiana Fever organization was terminated for sexual harassment, and far more disturbingly, claiming that the players on the team were actively encouraged by the organization to keep quiet and cover it up. This is the definition of a toxic, diabolical front office allegation. As commentators and analysts have forcefully pointed out in the immediate aftermath of this tweet, if the Indiana Fever organization did, in fact, tell their players to remain quiet about a sexual harassment incident to protect the franchise's public image, that is absolutely foul, nasty work. It represents a massive, systemic failure of leadership, and it demands absolute accountability from the very top of the organization, all the way down.
Man, Sophie Cunningham. Look, Sophie took a stance, and this is the fallout that is coming from Sophie Cunningham taking this stance and what she had to say. You know, you got people online. Saying the Indiana Fever organization is diabolical. This is crazy and all of this stuff. I mean, this is spreading like wildfire, man. What says you? Get down in those comments. Let me know what you guys think.
The internet is currently a raging wildfire of speculation and outrage. You have a massive segment of the fan base loudly applauding Sophie Cunningham for standing her ground, defending Title IX, and refusing to back down from her moral convictions regarding the protection of biological women in sports. Simultaneously, you have fans completely horrified by Brianna Turner's allegations, demanding that the WNBA League office immediately launch a full-scale, independent investigation into the Indiana Fever's Human Resources Department and their executive leadership team. The contrast between the pristine, highly marketable on-court product and the incredibly dark, chaotic allegations happening behind the scenes could not possibly be more jarring. The Indiana Fever are currently the absolute epicenter of the basketball universe, driving unprecedented economic growth for the entire association. But you cannot build a sustainable, billion-dollar sports empire on a foundation of alleged cover-ups and organizational silencing. If a player feels compelled to expose a sexual harassment cover-up during a Twitter debate just to prove a point about organizational priorities, the internal culture of that franchise is deeply, fundamentally broken. The fans are demanding transparency. The media is demanding answers. And the WNBA front office can no longer afford to look the other way. The Indiana Fever organization is officially on the clock. Will they publicly address these massive allegations, or will they attempt to sweep this PR nightmare under the rug? Keep your eyes on the timeline, because this story is far from over.